Hey, welcome back to Sabine's Common Sense. I'm your host, Sabine, the Purpose Lawyer. Thank you for watching and thank you for helping me be on purpose. So today we're going to be talking about legacy. Yes, everything legacy. And after I share with you some legacy talk, I'll be interviewing, I have the opportunity to interview a very special guest, Ashley, the real McKoy. She is a legacy entrepreneur. She is doing amazing things. She's a superstar. She is on tour with Cesar and DJ Envy seminars. She is also running 2 brokerages at the same time and doing it flawlessly. So she'll tell us all about that in her story. So I was listening to Jay-Z's 444 album because that's like the one person I'm a fan of when it comes to music. For some reason, it's just like, even if he's not talking about what I'm doing, it's just inspiring. So I was listening to 444 because I was like, I got to go through the whole catalog again. And I was listening to his song about legacy, and with every stage in his life, he's on his grown man shit now, right? So he's now talking to us about his how do you protect. Now I'm talking to you about getting to the bag. I've talked to you about how I escaped the hands of prison, all this kind of stuff that he's talking to us about. And then he's talking about, like, now that I've made some money, what am I doing? Now's the time to protect it and pass it on to the next generation, and really sort of like breaking that down, right? So it had me thinking about this article that I was reading recently about how people in the South have had these legacy properties in their families. And instead of, planning to pass it on, they really kind of just like put it in a whole bunch of people's names, like, their children, which may be 4 or 5 children and things like that. And as a family grows, cousins kind of get further and further away, right? The family's not as close-knit as it once was. And that's the way that they're sort of passing on property. And because they're doing it that way, there's been a lot of situations where the property has ended up being lost or being a forced sale and no longer sort of in the family. And there is a better way of doing it. So what I typically impart on people is that they need to sort of plan in terms of leaving those type of properties either in a trust or a business entity where it's a family business, so that these properties can now stay in the family for generations. And you can have certain like rules and regulations, like, okay, the property cannot be sold. Maybe the property can be mortgaged for a particular purpose, or this is how this property is going to be paid for once I'm not here. Because one of the problems with these families that have had these properties is, like, after a while, if they were like in an industry that's dying, like, say, for instance, farming, it's very hard for people of color to be in the farming industry. So that has been something that's died over time. And then someone who's a farmer who has all this land, they may not have the money and the means to be able to keep it up, so the property falls into disrepair, et cetera. But you could plan for stuff like that. You can say, listen, here's this insurance policy, which we'll be talking about insurance later on. But you can say, here's this policy that's meant to pay for the mortgage or meant to pay for the upkeep of this particular thing. Or here's this other asset that should be maintained to, be able to feed off of, to be able to take care of this particular legacy property. And so sometimes these properties are multi-million dollars, right? We just heard about a family in LA who got their property returned to them that was worth over $75 million, right? Because it was owned, way back in the day. And so this whole talk about legacy is how you set up the next generation. So it may not even just be for your children, but for your whole lineage. And if everyone really starts to think about elevating the next generation and elevating their lineage, then now we have a whole culture that's, not starting from scratch again, generations later. So just wanted to give you that food for thought to think about the bigger picture of planning, the bigger picture of creating a legacy. And then when we talk to Ashley, we'll see how legacy is more than just the things. It's more than just the property. It's more than just the assets. It's also how you're living and how you're being and the lessons that you're passing on. So let's get into it. Hello, Ashley.
Hi, Sabine.
The real McKoy, right?
Not the fake one. Not the fake
not
one.
the fake one. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm like super honored to be here.
Aw, I appreciate that. I appreciate you being honored. I'm honored. So, Ashley, you are so many things, and we're going to get into all of that. I know they're not who you are, they're what you do. Right,
exactly.
So you're into insurance, you're into real estate, and you're just like an all-around wonderful person from my experience. When I met her, we just clicked.
Right, we did.
She's very bubbly, very like cool people. So again, happy to have you.
Thank you. I'm
today.
excited.
So tell me a little bit about. We're gonna get into like everything that you've done, but I want to know a little bit about what makes you Ashley. Like, what's your tagline?
I've had so many taglines, actually. So when I started in real estate, my tagline used to be like, seal the deal with the real McKoy.
I like that.
Right. And then like now with the insurance, I think it's kind of like an insurance agency that you can trust. You know what I mean? Like experience the difference.
I like that.
Yeah. So I guess I just go through different taglines, but I have no real one.
Right. But what about you, the person?
Oh, me as the person. What's my tagline?
Yeah. Without any career attached to it, just like you.
Like if somebody had to give me a tagline to really describe
like your BFF.
I don't know. Maybe it's go with the flow, like anything goes kind of situation.
Right. Easygoing,
yes.
That's
like I
kind of me
literally
too.
go with the flow.
Yeah, that's kind of me too. I'm not like, I think people think I'm much more complex than I am, but I'm just like, I'm good. I'm pretty,
you know why I think
easy.
that is?
Why?
Because like we're in serious type of industries.
Yeah, that's true.
So then people look at it like, oh, a lawyer, or insurance agent, and they're just like, okay, serious.
Yeah.
So they don't really see like your personality or who you are as a person outside of that. You know?
I agree, and that's been something that I think I've been like fighting with. Like I want to be me, independent of the title. So like that's, yeah.
And
do you find that?
Yeah, and I feel like I struggle with that, like with social media, right? Because it's kind of like you want to do you, but then at the same time,
you're like,
you have to
but
be
I'm
professional.
this. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then it's like, you get a little jelly because there's other people in like other professions that they get to kind of really be who they are.
Right.
And it goes along with what they do.
Right.
So you're just like, oh, I wish I could do that. You know what I mean? But it is what it is, right?
Yeah. And I feel like I sound like a broken record, but I'm always talking about how you can like be who you are, outside of the box, right? And like sort of the career has to fit you, girl.
Right. That's true too. I mean, in a sense, if you are true to who you are, no matter what you do as a profession, it really shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
Because this is like my style, there's other options. You can go to other attorneys or insurance people, but like they say, your tribe is going to flock to you. And I feel like I live by that. Like I feel like my tribe it always comes my way. Yeah. So I never try to go out of my way to like, to get one certain type of person or another certain type of person, you know what I mean? It just kind of flows.
Be who you are. Yeah, I love that. So you started back in Tennessee.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Tennessee.
Tennessee, but you're not
Cowboy
from
boots
Tennessee.
And all, yeah.
Oh, wow. He's like, let me fully embrace this culture.
So, no, I'm not from Tennessee. I'm from Jersey.
Okay.
So
Jersey in the house.
Yes. So what happened was we moved from Jersey, me and my mom, because she remarried.
Oh, okay.
So my stepfather was in the military, so we kind of moved all around the country.
That must be interesting.
Yeah, it's like I moved every 3 years, met new friends, went to a new school, which is all kind of like a part of like how I am, I think.
Okay.
Because I'm used to meeting new people, so it's like just be brave and just like I can walk into a room and not know anybody and I'm literally okay.
Okay. So you felt like that was a good experience for you, right?
It was a good experience. At the time, I don't think I realized it was.
Okay.
Because I was young. I was like 8 or 9. So going through those type of changes at such a young age is very difficult. And so I just kind of felt that at the moment, I hated it. Like I hated life. I'm like, why are we doing this?
Why do we have to move?
Right, exactly. And then it was a little sad because you had to meet new friends and then, you didn't know people and then you sat by yourself a lot and
I get it. But you overcame, girlfriend. She's here today.
Exactly. Shout out to all my military brats. They know what I
mean. That's awesome. I love that. So, but you sort of settled in Tennessee and started your career there?
So my mom and my stepdad stayed in Tennessee like as the last duty station, which is what they call it in the military.
Okay.
And so they kind of stayed there through like retirement. So my mom does real estate. And so I actually came back here after I graduated high school and went to college, and then I went back to Tennessee.
Okay, here is Jersey.
Jersey.
Okay.
Yes.
And then back to
Tennessee.
So
then I went back to Tennessee, and my mom was in real estate, so I was like, hey, I want to kind of get my real estate license too. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't that simple, but something happened, and I was like, hey, I want to get my license too. I don't mind sharing. Okay. So I feel like I've told this story like a million times.
Okay, I never heard it. So I'll hear it.
So my mom, she asked me to run into the house and like get her check off the kitchen table.
Okay.
The rest is history. So then when I went in to get the check, I was like, whoa, you know what? I kind of like the way this is looking.
Oh, got you.
So then I was like.
You was like, oh.
Right. I was like, all right. Like, I know I'm always asking you for money at the time. My mom was probably looking at this like now.
Yesterday. Nah.
Yeah, yesterday.
Because mom's pockets are always better
than
exactly.
So I was like, you know what? I want to actually obtain this for myself. Like, I've always been that way. Yeah. So then I said, can you help me get my real estate license? Like, pay for me pretty much. I was like 18 at the time.
Right.
So 18, no, I was not 18. I'm lying. I was 20.
Yeah. You were like just finishing school or like?
Yeah, just finishing school because I graduated high school at 17.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I was around 20 and then I told her, listen, can you pay for me to go to real estate school? Mm-hmm. I was like, I promise I'm going to make you proud. Like, I think I'm going to do something with this.
Right.
And so she did it. And then here
I
am.
That was that.
10 years later. 11 years later at this point. Yeah.
Right. Still loving the industry. Mm-hmm. So that's good. And so you were working like with military people or in the military arena.
Exactly.
In the beginning. How was that?
So we were in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is a military base. Okay. It's a U.S. Army base, actually. Okay. Because there's different bases like, Navy and, they all have their different things. Right. So this one was Army, and that was our audience. Okay. So with the military community, it was a lot different because unlike in a normal community, like even here, right? It's like sometimes people stay in the same place for a while. But in the military, they leave every 3 to 5 years. Okay. Probably even less than that, sometimes 2 years. Okay. So you had a revolving door of clients. So if you sold the house to someone, they were reselling like within 2 years because they had a new duty station. Okay. So then you had to put the house back on the market. So you really wanted to keep in contact with your clients. Mm-hmm. So I feel like in other places, maybe people are like, they try to keep in contact, try to keep that touch system going, but sometimes it doesn't always work that way. Right. But with the military community, you have to keep in contact with them because it's just that quick they can leave. Okay. So that was kind of my experience with that. It was a lot different than like doing real estate in Jersey, where it's like, your clients will move in and maybe they'll call you 6 or 7 years later. You know what I mean? Yeah. In the military, that they're moving in 2 or 3 years. So you want to stay on top of it pretty much. Okay. And so that's like a sort of like a little niche market that you found there. Pretty much. Yeah. It is. It actually is when you think about it.
If somebody wanted to get into that area, like as an agent or like pursue like those markets, what would you suggest?
So I would suggest, you mean places or like just advice?
Yeah, like for instance, how would one get into that arena? Because you already had the connection. Your father and your stepfather was doing that, and so is there a way that people get into that?
Person like, I want to move to a neighborhood. That's like well, I don't know who would want to do that, but but if you do happen to live in a military community, I would definitely take advantage of that. Okay. Because in a military community, outside of it is always like a major city. So like in Fort Campbell, Nashville was the major city for us. Okay. So it was about 30 to 40 minutes away, but there are people who move to Nashville, right? Right. So if they want to get into that type of market, then I would just recommend getting educated on like VA loans because that's pretty much all that they're going to do for the most part are VA loans. So I would just kind of, focusing on that. And then also you really need to know like the area, like the outskirts and everything, because a lot of times when people live like on post, which is the military base, they want to move off. So there's certain exits or certain towns that they would move to and they need enough time limit to get back to base in the morning because they wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I would say kind of like knowing the history of the military. And like you said, I had that experience. So I kind of understood that part. And then I think to like understand like the rankings and things too. Because normally, when you're just coming in or whatever, like an E3, E4, they normally want you to stay on post. Okay. It's kind of like freshman year of college.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? They're like first year.
You'll be wildin'. We're not having you all.
Exactly. So you're new to this. You're not true to this yet. So basically, you're going to have to stay here.
You heard? Yeah, that's funny. Okay. So that's That's cool. So how did you now transition from that? Like, what made you like, I'm done with this? I love a good, I'm done with this, and I'm going to move on to something else, right? So what made you get to that space?
You mean like get into insurance? Okay. So I got into insurance at 23, which was just a few short years after I was doing real estate. So what happened was, it wasn't that I was done with real estate because I absolutely loved it. I had went to college for interior design. So it all kind of went together as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So my grandfather, he owned an insurance agency in Manhattan. He got it in 1986.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I was born in 1988 on East 72nd Street. That's where his office was. And so he was there for years, like, you know, since I was young. So my thought process was, if I don't amount to anything, and I know where you guys think this conversation is going, but it's not going there. So if I don't amount to anything, I'm going to come and work at your office.
Okay.
That's just how I always felt, right?
You were like, I know that there's something created for me.
Exactly.
Legacy.
Right. So then I was just like, you're a last resort, right? Because you're there, granddad. So then what happened was, he actually retired after 30 years or whatever the case is.
Wow.
So then I was like, okay, well, there goes that plan B. So now I really got to make something out of myself. I've just always been spoiled. So
that's good.
So basically I'm like, you know, if I need something, I'm going to ask my parents, my grandparents, whatever. But in that moment I was like, wow, okay, it just got real. Like, I'm going to have to really make my own career.
Right.
So he retired. That was that. And then he called me, and I was actually trying to relocate back here, right?
Okay.
So then he called me, and then he said, I'm actually opening an insurance agency again.
Oh.
And I'm like,
him
what?
decide to do that? Yeah.
So the CEO of Farmers Insurance, you know Farmers Insurance?
Yes.
So the CEO flew him out to LA because they had no offices in Jersey.
Okay.
Right? So he's always traveled to New York, but he lived in South Orange. Okay. But they, you know, kind of commuted there every day for 30 years.
Okay. Wow.
So then they asked him to come out of retirement and to be the first farmers insurance agency in New Jersey.
Wow.
Right? And just to give you a little bit of his background, not only did he have, you know, a successful insurance agency, but he did a lot of insurance for celebrities.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
like, you know, all the
do
Yankees.
Tell.
Yankees, what's his name? I'm like, what's his name? Tiger Woods.
Okay. Oh, yes, him.
Yes, right. Different people like that. So he had actually a celebrity wall.
Okay.
So when you go into his office, the elevators open up, it says the McKoy agency, and then he had a whole celebrity wall of all the celebrities that he did business with.
Awesome.
So he was a very popular insurance agent.
Okay.
So they thought of him. And they were just like, we can only have, you know, Thurman McKoy to be the first agent in New Jersey.
Awesome.
So he took on, you know, that role. And then he said, if you want, you can come and work with me. So at that time, I was trying to relocate here. But as you know, when you're working in real estate, you have to start your clientele all over again.
All over, yeah.
And I worked so hard to build up the clientele that I had. I was doing really, really well at the beginning. And so I said, okay, let me just take this job. Insurance. Like,
to like just have something coming in over there. And
right. And at that time, I was kind of over the whole insurance thing. Like, I was like, okay, I mean, I might have said that, but I really didn't mean it.
But for real?
Right. I'm like, I'm not really trying to do insurance. But you know what? Let me just take this job because I need to relocate back there. And the only way I can do that is with a job. Because originally, if he didn't do that, I was going to be like a leasing agent at like one of the condos or whatever the case is. Because a lot of times they'll relocate you. And they'll give you like a free apartment or a discounted apartment and give you the salary.
Yeah.
So I said,
you're trying to get a hookup.
Right. So I was saying to myself, that's the best way for me to relocate. And then I'll merge out of that and go into just being a realtor again.
Right.
And then maybe I'll build up clientele from the leasing office. This was my thought process.
No, that was good. That was a whole plan. Yeah.
So it would have worked out anyway as far as I was concerned.
Right.
Sometimes I think about it like, what would have happened had I done that?
Yeah.
So then I came
that's
here.
Good. I mean, it's good that, just to interject, that you had a plan B. You knew what you wanted to do.
Right.
You had a plan B and you had a path to take you there. And you weren't kind of just like, well, let me just go figure it out.
Flapping in the wind.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though you had stuff to fall back on, essentially. Yeah.
Exactly. But I always have like a million plans. Like, if this doesn't work, that's going to work. Like, it's crazy. All the plans I have in my head. So I came here and then I got into insurance.
Okay.
But my whole goal was to get back into the real estate.
Always. Okay.
So I was just like, okay, let me get my license, obviously. So I had to study and do all that. And then, you know, I just kind of started doing it. And then I said, well, you know what? You always said before, like when you were younger, I'm going to have like an insurance and a real estate like office combined, right?
Okay.
Because my mom did real estate, my grandmother did real estate also. So when my grandfather was doing it in the 80s, my grandmother was doing real estate.
Oh, wow.
So she used to take me around like showing houses when I was like 5, So I've been around both industries for a very long time. And so then I said, well, maybe it's happening, girl. Like you're actually,
look at that. You manifested it.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, you're getting your insurance license. And then I did that for 2 years, and then I took a break tried to take a break. And then I went back into real estate.
Okay.
And then I made my real estate career very successful in Jersey. And then I dabbled back into the insurance because I would just think about it in the back of my head. And I was like, why waste a license?
Right. So you
and then
your license the whole time.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that you had this whole, and I like to call it legacy because, you had these legacy industries within your family. Not only that, they were pouring into you the whole time and you didn't even realize it. Like you were just soaking up all of this stuff.
Like your kids.
Right.
Your kids are like watching. Yeah. That's what that means.
Exactly. And so what I wanted to point out is because I talk about legacy all the time, but it's like, it's more than just the dollars, right?
Right.
It's the experience, it's what you learned throughout your whole entire life. Like, for them, they would have to write a 10-volume book to tell you everything. Right?
Yeah.
But they really like poured it into you and showed you all these things that
by example, pretty much.
Right, a lot of things go without even saying. That's how you learned it. So how does it can you describe how that feels to know that someone planned for you and there was this path sort of already paved for you? Do you feel like that made you feel different in life?
I mean, it definitely made the situation different. So just as like a little backstory, I guess.
Sure.
I feel like I have to go into this in order to go into it.
Please do.
So with my mom and my dad, they grew up very different. So when I talk about my grandfather and my grandmother that was in real estate, those were my dad's parents.
Okay.
Right? And he was an only child at the time.
Okay.
So now he has a brother, and his brother is like 3 years older than me.
Oh.
So that's crazy. And my mom, she grew up with 11 brothers and sisters. Single mom.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So my dad is from the Bronx and my mom is from Jersey City.
Okay.
So with her 11 brothers and sisters, it was like a struggle, pretty much. Like she'll tell you, like, it was just a struggle.
Wasn't no crystal stair.
No walk in the park.
Right.
So when she met my dad, like she would always say that she felt like it was like the Cosbys. Especially during that time, like you're talking about the 80s, and it's like, when you look at strong Black family units,
I see what
maybe
you mean.
it was, not
it
as
was like,
prevalent.
oh, this is real, like it exists,
like this exists, it happens. And so with that being said, comes 11 brothers and sisters, comes like 30 first cousins for me that were kind of like all the same age.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's
right.
like we're brothers and sisters.
Yes.
So when I would go with my mom's family, when we would come back and visit and things like that, it's like a bunch of kids, a bunch of people, like, you know what I mean?
Connection, community, all that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they live in more of an urban setting and, not as successful in life, meaning with a business and different things, right?
Right.
And then my grandfather would come and pick me up, my father's dad, right? In a Benz or whatever the case. And my cousins would be like, what are they rich?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
I'm like,
so
pretty much.
Exactly. So I've always been called, like, I mean, I don't know if it's okay to say like on a podcast, but like in the Black community, it's like white girl, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I was always called, like on my mom's side. And then like on my dad's side, it was always expected, like to go to college, to go and do this, to go and do that. So I feel like I've always grown up with like both sides of the fence.
Did you ever feel torn, or you felt like it made sense? Like it helped shape you?
It was fine for me because I was like, going with all the cousins and like at my grandmother's house is like, it's like a free for all. Right?
Okay.
We're all having fun, whatever. We're eating candy, but like there's no real structure.
Right.
So that was fine for me. And then kind of like going with my dad's side of the family, that was fine too. It was just a little bit more,
Yeah, structured or buttoned up.
Buttons up.
Yeah.
Like at my grandfather's house for Thanksgiving is like other lawyers, doctors, Black people though. So that was like kind of awesome because I really got to see. And I guess that goes to show like the mindset, right? So when I look at like me or like one of my cousins, for example, even now, like our mindsets are so different because I feel like to me it's always been possible.
Right.
Like, so things for them that feels like it's not possible, it's like always been possible for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I've always seen a Black doctor. I've always seen a Black lawyer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it wasn't a question for you as to whether you're worthy, whether like it's possible for you or you're enough for this, It was just like, yes.
Pretty much.
And that's the importance of exposing, children to different things and different cultures and, moving outside of your just where you're at.
Comfort zone.
Your comfort zone, so that they can see what's possible, that they could know that these sort of things exist.
Absolutely. And I think that, that was like one example. But then when I look at like my mom, she's a whole nother example.
That's
so
true.
She came from a struggle, but she knew that she wanted more. So she went out and did the things that she had to do, which afforded me, the life that I had, because she went and said, just because I grew up in this or this was my story doesn't mean it's my story. So
Absolutely.
To me,
so
I
either
look
way.
At, yes, either
there's
way.
A way.
Right. Either way, where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
So I feel like just kind of seeing both sides really kind of helped me to understand a little bit more. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I'm always like super intrigued with that psychology, like how people take that sort of experience, like because I had it both ways too, where neither one of my parents come from wealth, but for some reason there was a part of me that thought that I could do whatever I want, I could do anything, there are no limitations.
Right.
But there was, I think, as I got older in life and got sort of exposed to like corporate and stuff, is when I started to feel like there are limitations because I'm this color. I probably can't do these things, and things like that, because I didn't have the real life examples.
Right.
Right. So, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that just because you don't come from wealth that you can't still have that mentality. Right. So, but it's good. I love that you sort of gravitated to not having limitations for yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but I did recognize as a Black woman that, we have certain struggles.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so that's why my mindset has always been like to change the trajectory, right?
Right.
So I always say, like with my insurance agency, I want to change the trajectory of insurance because there's not many of us in the industry in general. It doesn't matter what role it is. And then there's not a lot of women that are owners of insurance agencies.
Okay.
Actually, it's probably like, I don't want to throw this percentage out there and be wrong, but it's a very low percentage.
Okay.
So
right.
I just look at it like, I feel like I need to change whatever is wrong. So I know that there's no limitations, but at the same time, there naturally are limitations outside of your family, because it doesn't matter like what your family tells you that you are, what you can be. Right. The reality is when you go out into the real world, these people don't care about you. They're not your mom, your dad.
What are you experiencing?
Right. So they're just kind of like, oh, well, to us, you are this. And I think I kind of experienced that first, like outside of my family. I feel like growing up, like I've always been like very loved and very encouraged. And so when I got to the outside world is kind of where I saw the sharks.
Yeah. So did you ever experience like imposter syndrome? Because like I'll tell you for myself, like there are times where it would be hard for me to like embrace my status, right? Like embrace the fact that you're a lawyer. Like people are like, oh, you've accomplished so much, and I'm like, for real?
I know, you're so humble. And
So and I'm really not being like crazy about it. It's just really that's how I feel. So have you ever experienced that struggle? Like I'm all of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Well, I mean, I kind of always, like, for instance, my dad has been calling me the real McKoy since I was, like, a kid.
Okay.
So I've always knew I was that.
Yes.
But I did struggle with that a lot growing up. And actually, I feel like I just recently, like, very recently, started even being vocal.
Okay.
About, like, you know what? This is who I am. And it is what it is. And yes, I have this and I have that. But you know what? I worked for this. And you can too, kind of situation.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like I've just started to become comfortable with even like vocalizing. Like, yeah, I am. And you know what? More so towards like, I guess people who are like negative or haters. Because I mean, everybody else is like, you really don't have to. Explain. It's like an inspirational type of thing more than it is like, oh, look at who I am. But some people really try to challenge you. You know what I mean? Like, you think you're this and you think you're that. Right. And I've gotten that my whole life. Right. But now today I'm like, yes, I do actually. Yeah. Like, I do
Why
think
not?
I'm this and that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, who do you think you are? You don't think you're this and that? Like, let's flip the script on you real quick. Like, you got some inner demons there. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's really what it is.
It's true.
So, I definitely get that a lot. Like, that was a really, really big struggle. Yeah. Because I guess, like, the humbleness.
Yeah, because it's like you want to be, like, naturally you're humble, right? But and you have to figure out to what level do I, like, really pump myself up and to what level I maintain that humility, So it's a balance, but you really need both.
And I think that that's like a struggle in the Black community more so than anything. I think we all struggle with that, with kind of like being humble. Like we were taught no matter what status you are, what class, we were all taught like always be humble and never, try to act like you're here and somebody else is here. So I think sometimes now we're accomplishing a whole lot more as a people.
Right.
And so
and collectively we're sharing. We're in community.
Exactly. So. But I feel like now we're all kind of getting to the point where we're like proud to be like, hey, we're this and that. Because we realize that like I do have to say I'm this and that because there's another little girl that looks like me, right, that is relying on me to say and stand in the fact that I'm this and that.
Absolutely.
So she can also feel like she is this and that. So it's like bigger than yourself.
Yeah, I agree. And I experienced that with my daughter because like we give her a lot of love and we, tell her like who she is in this world. And then she'll turn around and be like, you know what? I am perfect, whole, and complete. And I'm like, yes. You know what I mean?
That's special.
I'm like, yes, but we do at the same time. Sometimes we're like, we want you to have that mentality, but you want to maintain, like, you don't have to make other people feel small to feel good. That type of thing. Right. Yeah.
I think that's super important. But I also think that sometimes when you stand in your light so much, it makes other people feel less important anyway. So I think it's good to also understand that, like, you don't have to dim your light.
Right.
To make other people shine.
Yeah.
I think those two go together because
Agreed.
you struggle with both of those, right?
Yeah.
So your daughter may feel very confident about herself and her abilities, but then at the same time, when you making that comment, she keeps that in mind and she's like, that is true, because it's like, be kind.
Yeah.
But then also sometimes you run into the situation where you are actually dimming your light.
Right.
It's
to
like,
be kind.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. To be kind.
To
right.
Be kind.
So it's like, when do you dim your light and not dim your
exactly.
know what I mean? So it's kind of like,
it's definitely a balancing act. Like you got to try to figure that out. But it's good to know that you're not alone. Like I love these conversations because it's like everybody goes through it in their own like type of way,
Absolutely.
Like different varying intensities,
yes, right.
But everybody goes through it. And so, but you keep pushing. You just,
You got to just keep pushing. I feel like those are like a part of the struggles in life. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
It's like sometimes you feel good, sometimes you feel bad, but either way, you got to get to the bag.
Yeah. Get to the bag. Yeah. So let's talk about how you've been getting to the bag. That's a good segue. So, all right. So how was it running two different types of agencies? Like in terms of if somebody wants to do what you're doing, like what are some of the challenges maybe you could share with us?
You mean like being a realtor and insurance agent at the same time? Okay. So, well, I mean, to me, it's been kind of like I don't know. I've been doing both of them simultaneously like the entire time, I feel like.
Okay.
But now it's at a different level because I'm running an insurance agency. Before I was working in one.
Okay.
And I was managing one. But both times it wasn't my name on the door.
Right.
So I just think it's a little bit different now because I have so many more responsibilities. It's kind of like being a broker in a real estate office.
Right.
An agency is the same way. Like whoever the agent is, they're responsible for literally everything. So if I insure you, like I have to be responsible for your policy. You know what I mean? And these are assets we're talking about, so it's even worse.
Right.
So I just feel like in this particular moment, I had to keep it real with myself a lot of times. And when I first started my insurance agency, it was very non-traditional.
Okay.
Meaning that I didn't plan to do it.
Okay.
So as you can see, that's a theme in my life. Let's go back to the theme. The theme in my life is I never plan to do anything. It just happens.
Yes, because she's blessed. It's just following her.
So I guess when I started my insurance agency, there was a girl that I had just recently met. So she had been in insurance maybe for 3 years, and I had been in it for 7 or 8 years.
Okay.
So she needed somebody more experienced to kind of like work alongside.
Right.
So we were both women, young, whatever. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, women empowerment, whatever.
Right.
So I decided to do it with her because I was like 100% doing my real estate thing. Again, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, I'll do it with you, but I'm going to focus on building the relationships that I have with lenders and attorneys so this could work out with you. So her husband was a mortgage broker or whatever the case is, so that was cool. He owned the mortgage office. So the whole thing was she was a little upset because I wasn't giving all my time there.
Okay.
And this is M&S, like what I have now. So then I was like, well, I'm actually going to be able to give more, but you got to give me a minute because I have this real estate business and I can't just tell people, like, hey, I don't know what to tell you. Like, no, they're under contract. Like, So she ended up leaving after 3 months. We had already gotten a space, right? We already hired an employee.
Wow.
These were extra expenses for me as a realtor, independent contractor.
Wow.
So that's when I learned the difference between businesses as well and entrepreneurship. That is all different. So being a realtor, yes, I own my own business and whatever the case is. But if I don't own my own real estate company, right, I'm just a 1099 contractor. So I just have to worry about my expenses and everything else. But when you have like a location, it's a totally different ballgame.
Right.
So with that being said, she left and I had to kind of like figure it out at that point.
Right.
And so I had to take a break from the real estate.
Because you had to pick up all this business that was just like hanging in the wind.
I had to finish all my clients. So at that time, it was very difficult because it's like I had to continue giving them that service. Like they don't care that I opened an insurance agency and bit off more than I could chew.
Right.
It's like not my problem.
The thing with real estate, nobody cares about what you're going
about
through.
Anything.
Yeah, they're like, I want it closed, period.
Right,
yes.
period.
Period.
You understand?
Yeah.
So at that point, I was just kind of like, okay, well, once I get through with these clients, I'm going to have to make the conscious decision to say, you know, hold on real estate.
Right.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because it's like I came this far, you know, like I wanted to come back to Jersey so that way I could
rebuild it. Yeah.
So I rebuilt it. So then now I'm going back to
insurance
the beginning.
Again. Yeah. So it's almost like both sides have been pulling you.
Right.
So it's like you had to, because you manifested this thing, it had to be this joint business or, you know, these dual businesses sort of side by side.
Exactly. And so maybe one day it'll be exactly what it's intended to be, right? Maybe a real estate office and an insurance office. But like these are the struggles in between.
Right.
You know, so essentially I've taken a break actually for the past 6 months.
Okay.
It's like publicly saying it for the first time.
Wow.
I've taken a break for the past 6 months of like doing real estate at all.
Oh, okay.
For the first time ever in my career. It's been 11 years.
Okay.
And so, of course, I had people that were waiting. So I told them that I was doing this, and they were like, we're willing to wait. Oh. So they've been like pre-approved, and they're just like, we're not in a rush. And so I've kind of picked that up again.
Okay.
Because now I have a staff in the office and everything else.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But at that time, I was super scared. I cried under my desk like a few times.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how did I get here? Like, I was trying to help this girl out. And then now this ended up being all on me.
Right.
So I just basically had to figure it out because it's like now I have a new landlord.
and I'm in this lease.
Right. And I'm in this lease. And then I have this girl to pay and everything else. Right. And so, you know, I let that girl go. Well, she didn't want to do it anymore. And then it's like I hired another employee. Then like that wasn't right. Then I hired new. So I went through like everything while still trying to be a realtor and insurance agency owner at the same time.
And no one would ever know it. You did it, it's like super flawlessly.
Thank you, because I was literally like crying under my desk.
Yeah. And that's the struggle of entrepreneurship. Like there's so many ups and downs. Like I'm talking about from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that, you know, that you have to sort of deal with. And especially when you're a woman now, you're dealing with a color issue, or not an issue, but a circumstance, and then you're dealing with being in male-dominated industries, you know, a lot of times. So there's so many layers to it, especially when you're a woman of color, but entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that was kind of a part of my struggle, too. It was like a kind of like a race issue with the insurance.
Okay.
Because my partner was... she's Hispanic.
Okay.
But it wasn't about her. It was about like the organization that we were under. Because in order to get like appointed with different companies, you have to go like under an organization.
Okay.
Because in the insurance industry, unlike real estate, you can't just get your license and come in and be like, I'm going to own an agency. Like more than likely it's not going to work that way.
Okay.
Because you have to build trust with the companies, like the major brands. You know, like
you're writing policies on their behalf.
Okay. Right. Like all the major brands you see on TV, right? I mean... you have to build their trust and you have to do contracts with them. So they want to know your experience. They want to know how much volume you can bring.
Okay.
So it kind of makes it difficult, too, to be in the insurance industry because it's like you have a client or you can have a lot of clients that need something. But if you don't have all the different markets, right, because you can't sign up with all these companies,
right,
then it kind of makes it. So then they do have... certain like MGAs, for example, is what they're called. And so
what's an MGA?
They're like a master general agent.
Okay.
So they're the main agent under the
actual
company.
Insurer that's paying out the policy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so you could sign up with those companies too, but it's like you need to have a really large volume in order to do that. Like, so most people who've had an agency for like 20 years plus, they might have those relationships, but they may only have like 4 companies too. Because if you don't write enough business through the company, then what happens is they will actually like cancel your contract.
Okay.
And then if you go sign up with another company, they always ask you, have you ever had a contract canceled? So it's like, you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So it's like very difficult. So if you sign up underneath an MGA, it just kind of makes it easier because they already have all those companies.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that we were specifically working through, it was like kind of like a little race issue or whatever. So then I was in the middle of like, I had to leave them and I had to go sign up underneath another one.
Okay.
And then it's just like when you go, let's say if you open up a farmer's insurance, it may cost you $75,000 or whatever. So it's like expensive to sign up for these things. So
like just signing up with the MGA?
Yeah, sign up with the MGA costs money. It might not be that much, but I was just giving an example to say like a State Farm or Farmers, you know, you're paying 25, 50,000, whatever the case is. And even with the MGA, you're paying 10,000 or whatever. Okay. So the whole thing is when you are leaving one, first of all, you got to transfer all your clients to another place, but then there's contracts in place saying that you can't take them after this amount of time and what. It's like a whole big mess. And like I had to make that transition too at the same time when me and my partner split. So I was literally losing my mind because I had to go interview MGAs and it was like pay that money again. And then
just to get in.
Right. And then you get renewals and insurance. So if I can't take these clients, that means I'm not getting paid off of them again next year.
Right.
So now I'm starting over from scratch. That's like my middle name. Start over from scratch. Like that's what I do.
That's so funny. I mean, I don't know. I'm enjoying this conversation because I
know
feel
I probably
like
confused you just now.
No. I'm following you. And it's good for people who probably want to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, what you're doing, to know like these are the type of things that you're going to be faced with, or these are the challenges that come with like sort of running this. Is there something that you love about it that you're like, this is why I do what I do?
So, well, the real estate, I've always just loved helping people. I love going into the houses. I love giving them. Well, I love working with my investors. So because of the interior design background, I love like helping them plan the layout. Like literally, I do everything at this point. Okay. Like the cabinets, I pick out everything for them.
Awesome.
So it's kind of like
that's a separate fee.
You understand? That's a separate fee.
That's a separate fee. Yeah.
So and they pay it because it's like, you know what, they get to go and get the property. You're giving them all the expertise from real estate to. And I don't even tap into that as much, like publicly, like what I do with the interior design and just like all of that. I just don't even talk about that part. But there's a lot of layers to, you know, my skill set.
Yeah.
And so beyond that, like with the insurance, what I actually like about that part is, again, helping people. You know, because I get to protect like a large asset. And it's like, who better than me, somebody who can help you purchase a large asset, and I get it. Right. So I'm also going to help you protect it at the same time.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So if you were living the dream, right? Oh, I almost forgot. You're on tour.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're part of the Rough Riders or something.
You're on tour with DJ Envy, Cesar Real Estate Tour, right?
Yes.
How has that been for you? Because we were on tour together for a period of time. And so how has it been for you just like growing through that?
Yeah. Okay. So she's been here from the beginning. So I started out at a table, right? Right. Because I like to lay in the background a little bit. Like that's just how I am. And then I come out like, but anyways, I went because I wanted to survey the situation. I had never been there. Like I had told Jenny because she's the one who gave me my start. Shout out to Jenny.
Shout out to Cesar and Envy.
Cesar and Envy, everybody, the whole team. And so basically when I came on, I was kind of like, I didn't know what to expect. And then when I went to the first seminar, which is at the Jacob Javits Center, I was kind of like, whoa, I mean, this is like my element. Talking to people, whatever. I was connecting with everybody. And so, you know, we traveled a little bit and I still stayed back at the table. I didn't go on stage, even though I had the opportunity to, but I chose not to.
And she has the expertise. Yeah.
So then I finally said, well, you know what it was? We did the virtual seminars. You did them too.
Yes.
So when we did the virtual seminars, that's when I kind of started speaking for the first time. Yeah. And then I felt like a little comfortable. It was really like my own insecurity.
Like ripping off the Band-Aid.
Right. Yeah. Because I was so shy because, you know, like what was your first time like when you went on stage?
Yeah, that was it. I was like literally sick to my stomach the whole week. I was like practicing, but I was like super nervous because I had spoken in front of people, but like historically for me at the time, it definitely was not my comfort zone. You know what I mean? And it was just like so much of vulnerability in getting up and speaking in front of people. And then these are important people, you know, like, you know, being on tour with people who have a huge following. It's like there's a lot of pressure there. So I totally understand
think about them
that.
too. You're just like,
they're watching.
Yeah, they're watching. Then you have like the actual seminar goers who are coming to get information.
Right. They paid for this.
Yes.
You know?
So then you're like getting in your own head, like, am I giving enough information? Like, is this, you know,
they're always looking at me like, all right, the time is up. Because I always feel like I got to explain it all. You know
a little bit more. Like with me with the insurance. So I've kind of learned, like you said, like,
you got to taper. Yeah.
So then like now I feel like I kind of have my little speed a little bit, like my presentation.
Okay.
I'm looking at it like what makes the most sense for the person. I want them to get like the best bang out of their buck, especially like with my segment.
Yeah.
And so I just realized you cannot tackle the whole entire topic of insurance, right, in the industry and, you know, a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So then I figured what is the most important, or like what are we, it's kind of like bigger. It's like the community, right? That's why we travel.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what is the best thing that the community needs?
Yes.
So then I started pushing in the last couple of shows life insurance, because it goes along with everything that we're talking about in the whole entire seminar. Right. Building generational wealth.
And then protecting it.
Protecting your assets.
Yeah.
So I could talk to you about like auto insurance.
Yeah.
You can call me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can look at your Geico deck page or whatever. We can do that another time. But like when I'm speaking to the masses, it's like what makes the most sense.
Right. What makes the most sense of, And that was also my angle too, like talking about you know, business entities and how to properly structure. If you want to be an investor,
right,
you need to structure properly. You need to protect these assets, because the last thing you want to do is screw yourself over if like the market doesn't go your way,
right,
and or you know lose it or lose everything. So
that's like the worst case scenario.
That's what
I push too, pretty much. Like you know, if you don't have the right insurance or you don't have insurance at all, like a lot of people, they don't have insurance,
right.
You can literally lose everything. So what is the full purpose of like literally building up this wealth or these assets if now when it's time to hand it over to your families, you don't have it anymore, or you lost it?
Or you lost it, yeah. And that's the saddest story that could probably ever
be
told.
That's the saddest story.
I had it, but I lost it because I just didn't know. Or, you know, wasn't
It's
prepared.
more sad than never having it at all. So that's just kind of what I try to, you know, come across.
Yeah. So, what do you say in 5-10 years? Like, where do you see yourself? Like, what would you like to?
I have no clue.
Ideally, you have a paintbrush. You can decide, you know?
Well, like, I'm hoping that I can be like on a yacht somewhere, honestly.
I hear you.
Like I do, because I feel like I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20 years old and I'm 32. So even though like to others, maybe it's like, oh, you're still young, or like entrepreneurship is kind of like a newer thing, I feel like now.
Yeah.
That a lot of people
But you've been doing it.
Right. But I feel like I've been doing it before it was like a popular thing, like before it was on social media or anything. And so I kind of feel like, you know, I want to retire or something.
Yeah, you want your businesses to run without you.
Yeah, I want my businesses to run without me. And I absolutely do want to be on a yacht in the mornings, like drinking orange juice and fruit and training with my trainer.
Can I come?
Yeah. You can come. You can come. Listen, I'll call you. Right. Actually, from where I live, when I look out the window, it's like the view of the city, right? Okay. And then you have the Hudson River. There's always like a yacht that's always like out there in the morning, especially this summer. And every time I look out there, I'm like, gotta get back to work. Like it's like a realization that like that's not you. Like you're not going to meet up with them. Like you're not linking with them right now. So you're going to work.
Right. So
and
what has being on tour taught you? Has it given you any tools like
absolutely
for life in general?
Yeah, I feel like it definitely has helped me like in business. It helps me look at my business a little bit differently too.
Agreed.
Because I think that a lot of people don't realize that like what Cesar and Envy and Jenny do is more than like empower the community. They also help empower entrepreneurs like us. Yeah. Right?
They inspire everyone.
They inspire everyone. So, I mean, I don't know where your business was when you came in or whatever.
It definitely grew.
Right. But the thing is, it grows. So I think there's something to be said about someone like them who they definitely don't have to do that.
Nope.
Right. And they chose to. And then they let you kind of be the only one in your lane.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah. So that's like super important. And it's like, you know, we are a minority group. And it's, to me, I just feel like that's a blessing in itself.
It is.
So it's taught me about like how to restructure my business. Right. Because now you're talking about like, I don't know who in my industry is doing like what I'm doing right now. You know what I mean? So again, you have to pivot again. So it's teaching me that no matter what, I just told you my story.
Yeah.
So I started off at the beginning just a salesperson, and then now into a situation I didn't want to be in, right? And I ended up being in, and then now on a seminar that's like, you know, speaking in front of hundreds and thousands of people on a daily basis, and kind of figure out like, how can I do that?
Yeah.
Because nobody has taught me how to do this.
Right.
And so you kind of had to learn how to do that as well. And I feel like that's what the seminar has taught me, is that also is bigger than myself.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I found my purpose. Like after a few shows, I feel like the first couple of shows, you're kind of like nervous.
Yeah.
So you are thinking about yourself. It's not that I don't love the people. It's just that you're in your
you gotta
own
get
head.
out of your head, right?
But then like once you get the hang of it, you're kind of like, hold on one second. Like this is not about me. And then you're like, wow, like this is actually what I always wanted to do in my life, right?
Right.
I always thought I wanted to do this, that, or the third, but really I wanted to touch the people. And so I have an opportunity to do that through insurance or real estate. Mainly right now, insurance is the topic I discussed. So like that's super important to me. And then to think about legacy, like you said.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know if my grandfather would have ever thought that something that he started in 1986, you understand?
Would be impacting somebody else's child because their parents now going to may take a step to get some insurance and protect them. Yeah.
And I love, like, when I'm on stage, I kind of bring that up. It's like not a bragging moment, like what we talked about before.
Brag about it.
But it's like, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to say that, like, I'm on stage because somebody else did this before me.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? This is what legacy is.
It's all about. This is what it's all about.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And it may not look like this per se for you and your child.
Right.
But what you do today affects their tomorrow. Just like what my grandfather did yesterday affected my today.
Yeah. And I want people to want to leave a legacy.
Absolutely.
Like, even if it's not monetary. I mean, we want it to be monetary too. But even if it's not, like, there is a legacy to be left. You know
like, it doesn't matter how big or how small.
How big or how small.
Right. That's not the conversation.
That's not the measure. Right. Yeah.
It's just mainly just doing it. And then we definitely have to do it because we're like light years behind as a community. So it's kind of like not an option.
Right.
Like we all need to figure out what we're going to do, whether it's a business, whether you want to, you know, go invest into real estate, whatever it is, like you need to basically pass down a legacy to somebody.
Yeah. And it's collective. It's a collective thing that if everyone does this, then as a culture, we move forward.
Right.
Versus starting from scratch every single
That's
time.
what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah. Okay.
We're on the same page, girl.
We're on the same page. We're vibing. Ashley, this was amazing.
Yes, I'm like, it's over?
To you.
No more questions? I like talking.
We could do like a little lightning round, like what I like to call right quick.
Okay.
So I'll say a word. You tell me what comes to mind. It could be a word or a sentence, you know. Okay.
It feels like a game. A game show real quick.
Like a game. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. So, love.
What about it? Like
what comes to
mind? One day. I don't know what
That's
to say.
fine. That's fine.
I'm a single girl, so I was like, one day, you know?
Okay, so she's single and she's got her stuff together.
That wasn't trying to throw it out there though at the same time.
No, she wasn't asking. Faith.
Faith is strong. Like that's how I've gotten through everything in my life. Is through faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I like stand behind faith 110%.
Awesome. Fun.
I love to have fun. Like, are you kidding me? I like the most serious things. I'm gonna make it fun.
Okay.
Like I just love having fun.
What's the thing you love to do for fun?
What I love to do for fun? Well, on a daily basis, I just joke a lot.
Okay.
I feel like that gets me through the day. But if I had to do something for fun, karaoke. Like I love doing karaoke.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could do that. I had a karaoke birthday party one time. It was like the best thing. So I can't sing, by the way, but I love doing karaoke. So
all right, I'm going to keep that in mind. Okay, and finally, wisdom.
Wisdom. This is about me, right?
Yes, whatever you want to say.
So when it comes to wisdom, I just think that I've kind of had it from an early age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that came with having a lot of time to myself, like I said, like with the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I can basically just say that I think people should spend more time with themselves and become more one with themselves. And then that is the only way I think you'll truly like enter your purpose in your life. And I'm very one with myself. I have a lot of wisdom. I know what I should and shouldn't do. And my parents, like, they pride themselves in that. Like, I'm a listener.
Yeah, they're like,
so I take advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a wonderful way to end the episode.
Yes.
Ashley, how can everyone find you?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at @AshTheRealMcKoy. Also, my business Instagram is @InsureTheBag. And then all the information is on there.
Okay.
I don't want to give you a whole rundown of all the email addresses.
You can find
the real estate, the insurance, like, it's too much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Ashley.
Sabine. I'm so happy. Like, high five. Do we end with
Yes, we could do a double high five.
Double high five.
All right.